Could you imagine if this guy was in Game of Thrones? Like, seriously, just imagine it. Without any of the modern laws to hold this guy back. Imagine that dude in Game of Thrones. Only Peter Dinklage could save us.
I saw a future. Our future.
We had a future until you started destroying it.
Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and this is my spoiler-free-ish review of House of Cards Season 4. I say spoiler-free-ish only because in order to really review Season 4, I will be dropping some spoilers from Seasons 1 through 3. Not a lot, but there will be some, so you are fairly warned that that shall be there. House of Cards Season 4 I thought was way better than Season 3, almost on this alone. Seasons 1 through 2, you just really get to see Frank Underwood being just this ruthless dude. I mean, that guy is evil. And then you got Claire Underwood, and she's just evil. I mean, you got these two unstoppable people just doing what they want and getting away with everything. And then you get to Season 3. And you have Frank Underwood becoming the president of the United States of America without one single vote. And then he just becomes this, like, toothless creature. To me, Season 3 was just completely boring. And then Claire left him, and I was like, wow, yeah, we've accomplished something with Season 3 here. Whoop-de-doo. Then you get to Season 4, and that to me is where things really began to heat up again, and it began to redeem some of the stuff from Season 3, because one of the things that was very interesting was seeing the power dynamic between Frank Underwood and Claire Underwood, and this time you got to clearly see it, because it started with them separated. And so you got to see how really strong and powerful Claire is, how smart she is. I mean, that woman really is the muscle behind Frank Underwood. And it's not that Frank can't hold his own. The dude can hold his own. He is cunning. He's got his plans. But what's interesting is as you're watching the two of them in this season, as they begin it separated and stuff like that, it's really interesting how you see this dynamic of, yeah, they still need each other. There's still enough holes in what she's doing over here and enough holes in what he's doing over here that they need each other's strengths to make it happen. So it was kind of an interesting power play, an interesting dynamic thing that they did with Season 4 between Frank and Claire. Another thing that they brought up that I thought was a very interesting issue was this whole internet search engine algorithm thing. Okay, so the whole plot of this season is you got Frank Underwood running against this Republican, and that's not a spoiler, that is the plot of the season. They are campaigning, and it's kind of interesting because you get to see how crooked everybody is. But then it went over to this unsettling thing as they're talking about the internet thing, how this Republican candidate was trying to use this algorithm to see where people were shopping, what they were looking up online and doing all of that so he could do specific targeting to like those computers, to those people, and talk to them about voting for him. That was kind of an interesting thing that they dealt with, that they brought up, and they didn't really deal with it morally because everybody's crooked on this show. But it was still interesting to see them deal with that. The other thing, and this was quite an interesting plot, but I don't think I can say much without it being one gigantic spoiler. So, sorry, this is going to be exceedingly vague. There was a major issue that went on kind of throughout this season that is a major issue in our country today. And basically what Frank Underwood did was, he's like, hey, look at that, while he was over here. And, yeah, that was also very unsettling. But I will say, it was very smart how this season was written, very smart how this season was put together, and the acting was incredible. And one thing that this show always does, it always unsettles me on this point, because what I like watching about Frank and Claire is watching their intelligence, watching their ability to plan, watching their ability to think several steps ahead of everybody else. To me, that's a very interesting thing to watch. It's just sad how evil they are. And I just say, what a waste of intelligence. What a waste of talent. Jesus said, like, I send you out as sheep among wolves. So be as wise as serpents, but as innocent as doves. And I think about that verse every time I'm watching the show, because all I can think of, wow, just imagine if Frank and Claire were as innocent as doves. Because if they were good to the core with that same intelligence, just thinking of the ways they could change the world for the better instead of, using it to satisfy their bloodthirst and power hunger. They're not nice people. I would not vote for him to be president. So in the end, I think it's hard for me to rate this show. I will say I binged it in like 2 days. So there's number one. So I would give it 3.5 to 4 stars just because the writing of season 4 was so good. The acting and everything was so well delivered. Everything drew me in. In that sense, yeah, I think I could give it 3.5 to 4 stars because I couldn't stop watching it. But then I also have that conflict of, dang, he's evil. Just imagine that dude in Game of Thrones, man. If you saw season 4 of House of Cards, what were your thoughts on it? And how quickly do you think Frank Underwood would have ended the show Game of Thrones and just sat on the Iron Throne? Like, seriously, let me know what you think about that in the comments. Also, make sure to subscribe and hit me up on Facebook and Twitter. I'm Durbin. Thanks for checking out Durbania.